Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, I'm going to talk about the difference between a Romanian deadlift and a conventional deadlift. Before I get into this topic, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. The best topic ideas I turn into videos just like this. One thing I've learned from coaching over the last few years is that more than any other lift, the Romanian deadlift is misunderstood. It's misunderstood and misapplied. Now, I don't blame lifters like yourself for not understanding the lift because it's not one that's talked about a lot. Even a lot of the coaches that I've seen, where I say coaches lightly, fitness influencers, they just prescribe the lift, but they don't always understand the mechanisms or the way the movement pattern is supposed to be executed. And this results in a lot of ganky Romanian deadlifts, which completely miss the point of the lift, what it's supposed to be used for, how it's supposed to be loaded, and how you can get the most out of the Romanian deadlift. So in this video, I want to talk about the differences between the RDL and the deadlift. So let's move forward. Now, first and foremost, the deadlift targets more of the upper back, lats, quads, and traps. Now, I say more. I said this over on Instagram the other day, and someone DM'd me and basically said, "You said the RDL doesn't target upper back at all. I'm going to show you." Well, that's not the case. I'm not saying that either of these compound movements don't target specific areas. I am stressing that the deadlift targets the upper back, lats, quads, and traps more than the RDL, and I will get into that in just a little bit as to why. Now, the RDL targets more of the hamstrings and glutes. So the deadlift is more of a traps, back, lats, and to a degree, the quads, more focus on those major muscle groups. And the RDL transfers more of that focus to the hamstrings and glutes. I'm not saying the RDL doesn't hit your traps a little bit, doesn't hit your upper back a little bit. It does, but the RDL, when performed properly, transfers more stress to the hamstrings and glutes. Now, let's get into things a little bit more. Why is this? Now, this is an important part, and this isn't something that's taught very often. So pay attention to this because it's critical. The Romanian deadlift, you pull from a stretch reflex position, and the deadlift, you pull from the ground. On the Romanian deadlift, you're moving your glutes back to load your hamstrings. And at the bottom, you have what's called a stretch reflex position. The hamstrings are basically pulled apart like a rubber band. This is a dumbed down way of talking about the stretch reflex position. So at the bottom, you get the benefit coming out of the hole on the Romanian deadlift of that stretch reflex wanting to close. So it helps you pop back out of the hole and hits the hamstrings a little bit more. That's the whole point, again, of a Romanian deadlift. You drive your glutes back to load the hamstrings, get them in a stretch reflex position, and from the bottom, you have that benefit, that stretch reflex, that rubber band being expanded. It wants to close as you pop up.
We're going to soft bend in the knees, push our hips straight back, feeling the stretch in the hamstrings. And then as we come up, we pull our hips through, squeeze the glutes at the top.
The deadlift, you are pulling from the ground. There's no inherent stretch reflex position. That doesn't make the deadlift a worse lift. It just makes it a different lift. And this is a key point that isn't understood when teaching the differences between these movements. Now, performing an RDL, you do not perform it the same way as a deadlift. What you do from a standing position is you drive your glutes back to lower the weight, okay? You drive your glutes back to lower the weight. You move your glutes back while riding the bar close to your thighs to lower the weight. That is how you lower the weight. You don't bend like just a simple hip hinge to lower the weight. That's an improper execution. The weight is moved down by moving the glutes back in a very deliberate manner. You don't want to be quick, because if you're quick and uncontrolled, it's hard to get that hamstring stretch, that hamstring loading. By moving the glutes back, initially when you start to move the glutes back, you should feel the hamstrings loading. It's okay to allow the knees to bend a little bit and naturally, but if you're moving the glutes back in a controlled manner on the RDL and you don't feel the hamstrings loading, you're doing it improperly. You should probably deload or unload the weight a little bit and work on that. So also with the RDL, moving the glutes back, you stop the descent when the glutes stop moving back. When you can no longer move the glutes back, and you're not going to continue to load the hamstrings. At that point, it's not a competition about how low you can go. You don't move your glutes back and then continue to lower the bar all the way down. It's not this, the RDL is not a competition to see how low you can get. It's about loading the hamstrings by moving the glutes back. So stop the descent when your glutes no longer move back. You want to have your lower back obviously tight during this whole execution of this movement. Now, from there, glutes are all the way back. From there, you want to drive the head up and push your glutes forward to lock out the movement. All right, so a deadlift versus an RDL. Pulling from the ground, when you don't have that stretch reflex position, you're going to inherently use more of your back, upper back, rhomboids, lats, traps, and quads, because you don't have that loaded stretch reflex position. When you have that stretch reflex going for you, it's inherently going to use more of the hamstrings. Pulling from a stretch reflex position, you rely more on the hamstrings and glutes. Final thoughts. While these lifts look very similar, they are not equals. They are not basically equal swaps. They have different focus. It's like comparing like a powerlifting style good morning to a squat. They're very different. They look similar to some degree, but they're very different in execution. And this point is where a lot of people get lost. An RDL and a deadlift have two different focuses. Yes, they're both a hip hinge type of movement, but they're going to stress different muscle groups differently. The RDL is going to put more emphasis on your hamstrings and glutes. The deadlift is going to place more emphasis on your traps, upper back, lats, rhomboids, and quads. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. If you made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.